For some of you who might have been keeping up with the channel for a long time already, you might remember I've already made 2 videos talking about my recent read-through of the entirety of Dragon Ball, as far as the manga goes anyway. While those previous videos were more so retrospective type videos where I went back and talked about everything that I felt regarding a certain portion of the manga I had read up to that point. Today I want to do something a little bit different, because I just want to talk about something I noticed while reading the manga that I thought was really interesting and I really felt like it had to be said. Just a reminder, this is indeed my first full-on read-through of Dragon Ball, but I mean, I've been a Dragon Ball fan forever. I feel like a lot of us growing up, we get into Dragon Ball watching sporadic episodes on TV or playing the video games, getting a bit of information here and there, and we always have a point in our lives that we realize, no, I really want to go through the entirety of Dragon Ball, and this is it for me. But just know that despite the fact that I haven't fully consumed the story beginning to end for myself just yet, that doesn't mean that I don't know what I'm talking about or that I don't pretty much already know everything that happens in the story as a whole. Also then some, considering everything I've consumed, including reviews and, behind the scenes type videos and whatnot. I know a lot about Dragon Ball. I'd say I'm pretty well versed in Dragon Ball. For the record, I just got finished with the Frieza saga and my read through, so yeah, I got to Z for a while now. I've been actually doing a little bit of a push where I've been reading a bunch of chapters all at once. And also let me know if you would like a more retrospective type video where I talk about my thoughts on the 22nd World Martial Arts Tournament and everything that happened after that. But what I really want to discuss today is something I realized when I got done with the original Dragon Ball era of the story. To be fair, the distinction between Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z isn't really a thing originally. That's just a marketing gimmick the anime invented and everyone took on. As far as the original manga is concerned and the actual story, Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z are really just one thing. The changes in tone and storytelling were actually a really gradual change that started partway through the original Dragon Ball and just sort of culminated in the start of the Saiyan saga. So really, despite the fact that we like to use Z as an arbitrary distinction, it's pretty much just the rest of the same story, but it is what most external media covers, and also most of what people watched, fans and non-fans alike. I feel like a lot of us just decide to start from Z because it's Dragon Ball Z, it's the part that everyone likes. The video games mostly start from the Saiyan saga and the fight with Raditz. So a lot of people aren't really interested in talking about or haven't even really watched or read the original Dragon Ball. But despite really just being another part of the same bigger story, it is curiously enough a turning point for how the non-alien characters of the story are treated. And again, Dragon Ball is filled with many turning points both before and after the start of Z, so this isn't really a good identifier for yeah, really, Z's existence is justified as another thing because this is where the story really changed. No, it really isn't. But it does mark a few changes that, like any other arc in the series, change the direction of the story somewhat, and this one I feel is particularly interesting to talk about, because a side effect of this change is that now the audience, and even the story itself to some extent, especially starting with Dragon Ball Super and all the media that we got after the original story finished, treats those non-alien characters, mostly human Earthling characters, as most Dragon Ball stuff likes to call them. We've all seen the memes. Even in Japan, people make fun of Yamcha's death and the amount of times Krillin dies as well. And recently, people have been sharing around this sick fucking Tien edit, and honestly, I have no idea on how ironic this meme is supposed to be, because, growing up, I barely knew who Tien was, and I didn't even really care about him, at all. Despite that, now that I'm truly consuming all of Dragon Ball, I really do feel like he's a really cool character, so seeing these over-the-top images to the sound of 2000s emo rock really puzzles me as to how much people are actually, appreciating Tien as a character, just making fun of how irrelevant he is by the end of the story. Which is a bummer, because again, these characters are fucking awesome. We as a society need to collectively reevaluate how we treat folks such as Tien, Yamcha, Krillin, Chiaotzu, and the like, because the original Dragon Ball portion of the story does a great job of endearing us to these characters. They're actually really fun to keep up with, partially due to the tone of the story. The fact that early Dragon Ball tends to be a little bit more lighthearted and adventurous and more comedy-driven is great for just getting you invested in the characters and their little quirks and their little developments. And those, alongside Dragon Ball's themes of self-improvement and healthy competition, do wonders for just giving characters organic development across the story. Yamcha starts as a ruffian who is comically afraid of talking to women, but is also a bit of a jerk trying to steal Dragon Balls and whatnot. But then he grows into this powerful warrior trained by Master Roshi, who carries a lot of discipline and a lot of perseverance and is actually really strong and really cool and a nice freaking dude. And speaking of Master Roshi, it seems that all he's known for nowadays is being horny. But despite that actually being a strong aspect of his character, even back then being kind of like his whole running joke, he's deep down actually a really wise master who teaches a lot of important lessons to Goku and the like. If it wasn't for Roshi, Goku would not be where he is today in Super, as far as being the capable fighter who never gives up and is excited by the prospect of fighting someone stronger, which, you know, makes Goku who he is. The strong hero we all appreciate. Thank Master Roshi. This conflict with the Crane Master is great because it shows off exactly that, how his teachings and his philosophy contrast with someone who's maybe not as great of a master as he is. His legitimate and honest approach to self-development, training, and growth is basically the crux of the entirety of Dragon Ball up to this day. And it was cool of Dragon Ball Super to give him a cool moment to shine at the Tournament of Power. The callback to the motto of the Turtle School was actually really freaking dope. But aside from that, he isn't really given too much to do nowadays, and it's kind of sad because he's a cool character. Speaking of Roshi's training Goku and Krillin, Krillin is also great. His growth from a bratty little kid who's kind of a jerk at first into a genuinely cool and chill guy is awesome. Seeing him grow all the way back from before the 21st Tenkaichi Budokai all the way to the Frieza saga, where he's being really responsible and nice and strong. It's nice to keep up with. Krillin is a very cool character. Y'all need to stop making fun of Krillin. He's actually great. Amazing father, amazing friend, capable ass fighter. He's dope. His death in the Frieza arc, you know, the one that triggers Goku's freaking Super Saiyan form at first, has so much more weight behind it now that I understand and feel his bond with Goku. He was genuinely Goku's best friend and his first actual rival, even if it wasn't a more friendly manner than his later rivals such as Piccolo and Vegeta. And beyond being endearing, I also like these characters because they're just plain cool. Ironically, the thing they're made fun of for supposedly not being in Dragon Ball Z and onwards. Even early on, Yamcha shows up as like the first real villain for the story, even if it's more like of a Team Rocket type villain rather than, you know, a big actual genuine threat. You know, he has this cool hair and a sword, and he has the Wolf Fang Fist and stuff. Even his overly mean death at the hand of a Cyberman was kind of a fluke, not gonna lie. I mean, yeah, he died and stuff. It was kind of funny. The picture of him laid down, yeah, sure. But you know, he was actually winning that fight. The Cyberman self-destructed because he realized it was gonna lose against Yamcha because he's just not good. He trained with freaking Kami-sama before that. You know, literally God. Few people can train with God. Yamcha trained with God. That's something, alright. And after that start, each of these characters continue to develop cool techniques and grow as people as they train and improve their martial arts. Even if by early Dragon Ball, Goku's already the strongest, which is usually just a punchline at that point in the story. They like to set up a big threat and be like, no, Goku, this little guy, oh, he's actually gonna kick your ass, and that's the joke. The rest of the cast is always fervorously training to keep up with him. They're all genuine rivals to Goku across the World Martial Arts Tournament arcs, and it's cool to see them grow together and try to keep up with Goku. Genuinely one of the coolest chapter endings in the manga so far, to me, was chapter 260, where it shows that they're training with King Kai at his planet after they died in the Saiyan saga. It's a nice sort of little surprise moment where they show like, yeah, these guys can clear the Snake Way. They're gonna train with Goku's previous master. They're not gonna let themselves fall behind. They fell behind. But not at that point. Not yet. Not quite. Goku's insane power creep across the Frieza saga as he trains on the gravity ship kind of caused a lot of permanent damage to the storytelling, as from that point onward, a lot of these characters were just not able to keep up with Goku, like at all, because his power growth was just too exponential. But the epitome of this perseverance is my GOAT, Tien Shinhan. Seriously, starting off as a major threat to Goku in the 22nd World Martial Arts Tournament, and actually defeating him the first time round, but not before going through his own cool redemption arc. Tien's growth from a little bit of a jerk, training under the Crane Master, into understanding what it really means to be a good martial artist under the sort of subtle, indirect tutelage of Roshi is actually a pretty good development and sort of a nice payoff, showing how well Goku was trained as opposed to someone like Tien, who was really not that bad of a guy. He was really just misguided. After that, he's just a genuine hero who gives his best into fighting against King Piccolo when he shows up. Tien is awesome! He's literally up to the challenge against Goku after he trains with literally God. Like, when Goku, that's before Tien trains with God as well. When Goku trains with God first, instead of going, oh shucks, I guess I'm never gonna beat Goku, he's like, no, he does, he says this.
Well then, I'll just have to train twice as hard, twice as fast, and twice as long for the next 3 years, that's all. Yeah, me too.
Me 3.
He also kills it in the 23rd World Martial Arts Tournament when it does happen in his fight against Mercenary Tao, which is really just a payoff to his own arc in the previous tournament. And it's a nice cathartic moment to see. Someone who also kills it in that tournament is Krillin. Even though he ends up losing his fights, Master Roshi remarks how far he has come after a fight where, even though he loses, he shows off a lot of genuine talent and actual growth and mastery on his part. And something that helps with this whole character endearment thing, and something that also happens right before this tournament, is Dragon Ball's genuinely great use of time skips. This goes up to the Buu saga, and even today with Super to some extent. You know, with people like Krillin getting married, with Android 18, and this whole vibe of seeing pretty much every one of these characters grow up alongside the audience. Even as I mentioned in my second video on Dragon Ball, it's even cool, like the very first time they do this, when they're going into the 21st World Martial Arts Tournament, you get to see the gang meeting each other again. It's always nice to see them like catch up and see how far everyone's gotten, and like, oh Goku, hey, it's been a while and stuff. You really get to feel the bond between the characters because they're so nice and they're so fun and they're so funny at this point of the story as well. Despite Dragon Ball's general focus on action and adventure, the subtle mastery in the character writing makes it so you pretty much care about everyone there in the main group as a team, as a little family. And it's nice to see they meeting each other again each time there's one of these time skips, especially in the 23rd tournament where everyone goes to train around the world and stuff, and everyone shows up in these badass outfits and whatnot, and then Goku shows up too, and he's finally an adult, and everyone's like, oh my, is this you, Goku? It's so cool to see everyone's reaction. Add that up to the decently big length of the Dragon Ball story as a whole, and it's nice to just grow up with this gang. And again, this is cool even up to Super. Seeing little Goku, we saw in the very first chapter of Dragon Ball, grow all the way into a grandpa in his 50s. Like, just being able to say, yeah, this little guy, I saw him grow up, dude. He's a loving father now. Okay, maybe he's a little stupid now, but I mean, that's Goku. That's Goku. Just seeing the development is really cool. Gohan growing into a teenager in the Buu saga and whatnot, like everything about this sort of time skip thing they like to do a lot in Dragon Ball, I think is really dope. It's one of my favorite things about the story. And like something I praised about current day Sonic the Hedgehog. There we go. That's the obligatory Sonic mention for today. It's cool how through these time skips and through seeing them growing up, you get the sense that each character from the cast is part of genuinely just this huge friend group who, beyond just being heroes who protect the world and fight in martial arts tournaments together. They're just this big group of friends who like to hang out with each other. Like in Battle of Gods in early Super, where everyone is in Bulma's birthday party and just hanging out. A good few minutes of that movie are just dedicated to that, and it's nice to see, man. It's nice to see the gang together like this, just hanging out. And I even respect Dragon Ball Super's attempts at moving forward these characters' stories. I just don't really like how it basically means that they have to be removed from the main plot kind of entirely, or mostly anyway. Not everyone needs to be into martial arts 24/7 like Goku is, but because Dragon Ball is a story that's ultimately about martial arts, and nowadays is about like multiversal space martial arts, like what's the baseball player gonna do? In universe, it's nice to see that Krillin's finally found himself a cool, stable job as a cop, but just now he takes damage from bullets, even though not taking damage from bullets is like base level power for Dragon Ball. It's literally Goku's first feat in the first chapter of the story. Like, sure, do whatever you want, Super. For the record, I don't even hate Super. I like a lot of things about Super. I think it's overall pretty cool. It just has a few things that kind of damage a few of the characters in ways that I don't really appreciate, to be honest. The Tournament of Power in Super was cool for giving characters like Roshi and Tien something to do, and even giving Android 17 the debut at the end of the tournament, but I wish that extended to more characters and in ways that were more meaningful. Like, both Roshi and Tien just kind of got eliminated fairly early on through the tournament. While it's nice to see Android 17 get that attention, he's also, you know, like a Z character from later on. He also needed attention, but he isn't quite the subject matter for this video specifically. Dragon Ball Super Superhero was also amazing for giving focus to Piccolo and Gohan, who, again, also kind of really needed that attention after most of Super was just focusing on Goku and Vegeta and all these multiversal warriors. They reached a little bit back to bring back these characters. I just wish they reached even further back and address these characters I'm talking about a little bit more deeply as well in future media. I think Toriyama, for as great as he was, and like, not trying to disrespect the dude in any way, he was awesome. Rest in peace, my dude. I think he genuinely just had trouble juggling so many cool characters, which, to be fair, is understandable. I've had similar issues with my writing in the past. Instead of doing what I do, which is just bloating your story with so many characters it's basically unmanageable, he just tends to forget or write out characters as they start getting quote-unquote irrelevant as far as the power scaling and whatnot for the story goes. Like, where the fuck even is Yajirobe in Super? I missed that guy! But yeah, what Dragon Ball Superhero kind of proves is that we don't need Goku to make a good Dragon Ball story. That movie was great focusing on Gohan and Piccolo. Dragon Ball is not called Goku and Vegeta, it's called Dragon Ball. It doesn't have to specifically focus on Goku all the time. Even like in the Buu saga, it was nice seeing Gohan being the main character for a change. So hey, maybe we can hope folks such as Yamcha get more attention in the future. Personally, I'd really love to see it. A Tien and Chaozu movie would genuinely kick ass, not gonna lie. But with that said, that's about all I wanted to talk about today. If you guys have anything else to talk about as far as this topic goes, please let me know in the comments below. I'm always willing to have a nice conversation about this kind of stuff. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to give your boy a like, subscribe, and keep up with any further Dragon Ball content or any content in general in this channel moving forward. Thanks so much for watching, and see y'all next time!